I I want to talk about right quick, kind of at the end of the chapter 87 there, that Elokar is we know that he's safe now.
Hmm.
Um, in Lopin's house, which really caught me off guard, and it honestly took me a little while to figure out where we were.
I wanted to mention
Um,
this too.
yeah,
Yeah.
and also that Lopin, I guess, has willed himself to become a surge binder now.
Like
And we
what?
get we get this little reveal where he just like sucks in a little stormlight at the end, and he's like, "Finally, I've done it."
Yep.
and, and then it's just like insane, and I'm like, "Excuse, hello," like
Yeah.
you can't just do that. And so I don't know what's gonna happen with him.
Of all the people, of all the characters, the one we get a little reveal of becoming a Knights Radiant, Lopin?
Hmm.
What?
Very
He's gonna
funny.
be the most ridiculous, like goofy Knights Radiant. I would not trust that guy with a shard blade.
Yeah.
Oh, no way.
I would not.
No way would I
No.
do that to you.
I
And
love the
I also, it's also just a hilarious uh, ending when he's like, he calls it to like a family member. And it's like, "Come here, let me stick you to the wall," like, and stuff like that.
I got some glowing to do.
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
I love the setup of that scene too, where Dalinar is asking Kaladin like, "What'd you do with Elokar? What'd you do with Elokar?" And uh, Navani asked him, "Did you put him in the cellars or something?" He's like, "Well, if you thought of that, maybe the assassins would have thought of that." And then it just cuts the scene right there, and it jumps to Lopin and Elokar just like arguing back and forth about dinner, and you're like, "What
Mhm.
is happening?" like,
Like, there's so much stuff going on, like around this area at this time, and Lopin's just like staring at a sphere, like, like let me suck in some stormlight, like trying so hard, and yeah, it's really funny.
which just another fun world building tidbit for you. There usually isn't any high storms in the Weeping, but there was one because the Stormfather got grumpy and it's like, I hate you all, so I'm going to sweep you off Roshar. And so there's Stormlight when there originally wouldn't be. Is how Lopin has this glowing sphere here.
I have to ask before we move on, Elliot, do you have like a guess, like what order of the Knights Radiant is Lopin gonna be? Like, where does this fit into
Oh man.
our
I
story?
hope
Like, honestly, I've tried to think, and I just don't know. I can't. I don't know if I could give a guess.
I
Yeah.
that's a funny question. I love Lopin. Lopin's great, right? But I hope whatever order it is, it comes with a very responsible spren because
Yes.
Oh yes. Yeah.
Lopin could use some of that. Now, I have no idea. I mean, we've had some implications that maybe the Dustbringers are the more like chaotic, perhaps, group of the Knights Radiant. So maybe that fits with Lopin's kind of more
I that's actually what I was gonna guess, but almost as a joke,
right.
like he's gonna be our dust bringer. Like
Yeah,
Lopin is gonna be our dust bringer.
I I could see it going a very different way though. We kind of get the impression perhaps that Dustbringers are a little more like violence oriented, perhaps in a good way. Like maybe they're like the the Marines, the Navy SEALs. You're going to send those guys in to get the tough jobs done, kind of stuff. But I could see Lopin going a very different, like maybe Windrunner. Maybe he's just kind of going to be that goofy, but always taking care of the crew that's around him kind of guy. I could see that.
Yeah.
I could too. I think it would be hilarious if we have two windrunners and it's Kaladin and Lopin. Yeah, they're just like two very, very different people, you know. I think that's hilarious. So yes, we could definitely move on to the Shalon reveals now. I had to definitely bring that up. Um,
I'm glad you did. I forgot that was in that chapter.
mhm.
So Shallan has a very interesting confrontation with Maraise and Pattern in our chapter 88 here. Maraise has come to the realization that Shallan and Vale are the same person. And he calls her out on it, and then Shallan's assuming that he's going to try to kill her, like that he's assuming, or she's assuming, that this meeting is going to be way more hostile than Mraize is intending. But Mraize says, I don't care if you're Shallan. You're still Vale to me. I still want you in the Ghost Bloods. What were your guys' thoughts on this?
I can't tell how genuine, like, good or bad or what the Ghost Bloods are. I don't fully get them. It's always kind of been like Shallan's like nemesis almost. Is this whole group the Ghost Bloods? But I still don't really get them, to be honest. Like I don't even know what to make of that, to be honest.
This Mraize guy knows way too much. Like, he not only has he figured out that Vale is Shallan, he's figured out that she's a light weaver. He talks about her ability to soul cast. She hasn't done that in weeks or months, and not around any of these people, or around anyone that we know of, right? So how he even put that together, I can't fathom.
Right.
He knows a ton about her family. He knows it. Well, one, he has her brothers, apparently. Apparently he has them under his control. He sent someone to get them and bring them to the Shattered Plains. He drops some lines about, like, her family's history of involvement in these matters. Like, well, hold on a second. We know that her father was involved with Ghost Bloods, potentially joined them. We know that Helloran went off and got involved in something. He was a shard bearer. Mraize drops a line here about her brother seeking the Skybreakers, which I'm assuming is a reference to Helloran, but perhaps not. I'm assuming it's Helloran. Gotta be, right? And so this guy just knows way too much. He seems like to be the guy with all the answers right now,
He's
which scares me.
he's also not afraid to use it, like use the
No.
information against people. Like he's pretty much blackmailing Shallan and saying, I have your brothers, you owe me a soulcaster. Lucky for me, you are a soulcaster, so I can just use you for whatever I need, and you have to do it because I have your brothers.
It's even at like a even more terrifying level for me, because it's almost like he knows that hiding her true identity and joining the Ghost Bloods is going to be a very strong temptation for Shallan. It's like he knows her that well that she is going to want to hide what she can do, that he just leaves it as, yeah, I think Shallan might just very well might want to, join me, leaving it out there. Just that level of manipulation and control over Shallan is terrifying.
It is, and I actually want to make a little prediction about this. I think it's probably pretty evident that going forward in our story from here, we're gonna find. I would guess that we're gonna find some bad Knights Radiant, or maybe people with honor blades or something like that, or like Zeth. Zeth is our only example, like I think a known Surge Binder that's like on the wrong side.
Mm-hmm.
But they seem to just be sprouting up right now more and more frequently. So I would guess that maybe he's a truth watcher or something, or like I don't know. I don't know another explanation of how he could know all the things he does about Shallan,
Yep.
um, that are secret from even like her brothers and stuff, right? Um, that
That
I just want to go to the Spren route here, and say there's more to it he can see.
I like that a
To
lot. I
life
had
and
not
stuff.
thought about that, but that would not, now that you say that, that would not surprise me at all to learn that Mraize has some kind of abilities.
Definitely, I think even if not, it's possible there's some other explanation we just don't know. Um, but just in general, that's kind of what I'm on the lookout for going forward. We've seen a lot of people get abilities now. Shalon, Kaladin, Lopen, Renarin, Dalinar, Yasna. They're all like the good characters, right? There was Zeth. Um, but like I would guess that there's going to be some other people too who aren't associated with them that may have surge binding powers and stuff and are very well hidden with it. So yeah, that's kind of where my eyes are at the moment.
Speaking of Zeth, Zeth's alive. He's revived by. Do we recognize this guy? Do we know? There's some interesting dialogue here. Elliot, I'm sure you want to talk about this.
Yes, I do. I do. We absolutely recognize this guy. We've recognized him a couple times. It's our man with the crescent-shaped scar on his face, and we get a name for him. He calls himself Nin, or also Nalan, I think, right?
Yep.
And then he claims to be the Herald of Justice, the Herald of the Skybreakers. Like, what? I knew this guy was going to be important. I knew this guy. We've seen him a couple times now, right? And I knew he was going to become a player at some point. But a herald? Whoa! I was not expecting that.
I very much I was super excited, and also I'm proud because I think he introduces himself as Nalan, and I actually picked it up right away because I definitely remember hearing that name. I don't know if it was from our trivia Herald thing or something like that.
Yeah.
Definitely picked that up, but I was really excited. I actually need to ask though, because I don't remember where else we've seen him. You were referencing like the Crescent Scar. Can I ask where else we've seen him, if you remember?
Seen him 3 places.
Really?
We've seen him in the prologue of this book. Yasna runs into him in the back corridors of Kolinar, the castle. We've seen him in the interlude where he kills the cobbler, the guy who's making the shoes for the little boy. He has a spren that's helping him heal heal the little boy. He doesn't really know what he's doing, and then he shows up and kills the cobbler guy. And we've seen him another time chasing Lift through the palace. He's the guy who's after Lift in her interlude.
Very interesting 3 times. But yes, very cool. I was super excited with this happening. Mostly because I feel like we're gonna have someone kind of take Zeth under their wing and like actually like make him a good character, because I've liked him so much throughout our story just because he's so like cool and has been the most like fascinating like kind of mysterious character. But then he just turns out plain bad, I feel like. But now he's kind of getting his fresh start. That was why I had my one of my words of rebirth. Just because Zeth is like it. I don't know if this is different or not. I'm assuming it's not, but basically, like this Milan tells him like, "You've died. Like you're broken from your oath. Like come with me now." Um, which is really it's probably not different there, but I was just thinking of the difference of in the audiobook he like literally like soul severed from body, and then another one he's like 1% life, effectively, but same thing there.
I'm a little nervous where this is going to go. I've not been a big fan of this guy that we've seen before. He seems to be he's talked before, especially in the Lift chapter, right, about he's going to obey the law at all costs, right? He doesn't care about what's right. He doesn't care about what he should do. He cares about what the law says he has to do. And I guessed before that perhaps that was tied to Skybreakers. Looks like that is the case. I'm very this guy is going to truly end up being who he claims to be, Herald. Someone who wields a lot of power and uses that type of justification to do what they want. Yeah, when you have someone who operates under that kind of ethics, right? When they have that drive of, if it's permissible by the law, I'm going to do it. You get very very quickly into some dangerous territory. You can justify a lot of things with that. You get into you can start comparing to Taravangian. You can start comparing to the old Zeth. As this guy points out pretty quickly here, Zeth has basically been doing this for quite a while. He's been justifying everything he's been doing because he's following the code, the law of obey your oath stone. And so I'm a little nervous what Zeth might become under the tutelage of this guy.
Yeah.
I mean, because we've up to this point, we've seen like tortured Zeth, hates himself, tearing himself apart, but doing what he has to kind of Zeth. If Zeth were to like get comfortable with what he's doing, like a self-motivated, happy Zeth, if you will, that almost scares me more than angry hates himself Zeth,
Yeah.
right?
It's true.
I'm very curious. I'm very intrigued to see where this is going. I really want to know more about where Zeth is going, but I don't know that I feel very positively about this. I think that this is definitely a rebirth for Zeth in, all senses of that word, but it may not be a rebirth towards like Zeth switching over to being a good guy. If anything, I'm a little nervous he may be leveling up and becoming even more powerful of an antagonist. But we'll see, I'm sure.
I have two comments that I really want to make. So two things. One, I could definitely see what you mean. I definitely like get that. Like I feel like we've always seen Zeth at his very lowest, um, at least internally, right? Um, so my thought with this is like if he has a good mentor or something like that, like a herald, hopefully being good, um, then maybe we could see the best of Zeth. But the biggest thing I feel like if he gets a sprint, so I wanted to ask because Nolan here gives him a shard blade, right? Like an actual, I'm assuming is an actual shard blade. Um, maybe I'm gonna assume that for now. Um, which one? It's described as like a dark shard blade, isn't it?
It is.
Yes.
And I really wanted to bring that up and see if there's any thoughts you
Yes.
have. But I'm just wondering, like, we've seen our Spren so far to be very good at like balancing characters out, and I'm hoping if he gets a Spren, then that will like help him a lot. But I want to ask Elliot big time about this like dark shard
Let,
blade. Like,
let me answer your question first, and then we
mhm,
should definitely
mhm.
talk about the dark shard blade, because you actually bring up a great point. This is a herald, and this is an order of the Knights Radiant we're talking about. We've kind of seen Skybreakers in a fairly negative light so far. They have not seemed like maybe great people. But as far as we know, the Knights Radiant were a very noble order, and each of the orders served a very good purpose. Like these are the good guys we're talking about. Or at least I think we're talking about. And
Mhm.
so it's there is definitely, I think, a side of hope for this. And that I think this guy could turn out to be a good guy. This Nalan guy. We haven't maybe seen him in a very positive light yet, but it's a Knights Radiant, right? This is, like you said, this is a herald. So for Zeth to go under and to be apprenticed to that kind of person, yeah, maybe we've only seen the negative part, and there is a lot of positive that could come out of this. I do think that's possible. But yes, then the dark shard blade of some kind that one speaks to him.
I was gonna say,
So
did you guys catch it? It talks to him.
Mhm.
yeah, which at this point in the story, doesn't surprise you much. We just learned that shard blades are Spren, right? So a talking shard blade, yeah, that doesn't surprise us at all at this point. But yeah, not 100% sure what's going on here. Seems like a shard blade. Is this a Spren that's then gonna bond with Zeth, and Zeth's gonna become a Knight Radiant? Could be, but there's a little something that we've also seen glow with the dark light. Something that we've mentioned a couple times, but now gone 2 entire books with hardly any reference to. And that, of course, is that dark orb that Paul and I have been fascinated by ever since we read the prologue of Way of Kings. We've made it through a whole nother book and we still don't have any answers or hints about what it even might relate to, except that now we see a sword glowing with like a similar type energy.
Which, side note, Zeth stashed that dark orb way back in
That's
our
right.
first interlude of the Way of Kings. It's an offhand comment of, oh yeah, I put that somewhere safe. And he's pretty much forgotten about it. He's no longer bound to his Oathstone now. He can pretty much do whatever the Skybreakers or whatever Nalan or whatever his name is, whatever he tells him to. So is that dark orb gonna come back at this point now? Now that Zeth's kind of turned a new leaf here?
I'm hoping so. I definitely am dying to know what this dark orb is, because out of every like detail that has been thrown at us, I feel like that has been the least subtle. Like, it's very much like, oh, I'm gonna take this dark orb and put it in my pocket and walk away. Like, and you're like, okay, like not so fast. What's this all about? And then it's just not spoken of for 2 full books, pretty much.
2,000 pages later, and it's
Yeah,
like,
and
yeah,
it's not
that
even
one thing.
anything. Literally, the only thing we're going off of is this shard blade is the same color.
Yeah. Yep.
It's not like he doesn't say like where's my orb or like any, like he doesn't say anything like that. It just says it like a dark colored shard blade, and we're like, oh my gosh, like it's happening. Yeah, I actually don't remember. Side note, what does the shard blade say? Isn't it just something like
It
casual,
says,
like
hello,
good
would you
evening
like
to
to
you?
destroy some evil today?
Oh yeah, and it's actually, I remember this now because it was very funny in the audiobook. It's like a very proper gentleman, like
Yep.
talking, like distinguished gentleman, and I thought it was kind of funny.
Huh.
Um and I cannot wait to see what goes on there.
Same.
That's my big thing right now for sure.
All right, chapter 89.
Well,
Adolin.
hold on.
Oh,
Hold on a
holding.
second. We do need to go talk about 89, but we cannot skip over what happens to Shallan in 88.
Oh,
We
yeah, I totally
have to
forgot.
talk about, at least briefly, the scene where Pattern forces her to relive her memories, and we get another big truth from Shallan's past, and that is that she killed her own mother, which wasn't too surprising, I think. I mean, we this has been kind of hinted at that at first we thought that Lindevar killed Shallan's mother, and that's why he was such a terrible person. But there were lots of hints, back to some of those creepy interludes early on in the book that maybe Shallan is the monster, and her father is not, kind of questions that we asked. So yeah, we at least get this scene spelled out for us. Although there's still a few unanswered questions for sure. Um, Paul, what was your take on this memory that Shallan has?
Yes, I'm really glad you asked. So first, I want to take a slight step back and like look at the whole picture. The book did such a great job, I think, of like feeding us this information, and like closing it very well, because this was the last big question of like Shalon's past. Like honestly, like all the flashback chapters in total did a great job of like recapping Shalon's story here. But with it, I thought it was a great reveal. I guess was a little, maybe a little more shocked than you were about it, Elliot. Very much like kind of surprised. There were only so many options that could have happened with her mother.
Right.
Um, but I'm very glad we got like the concrete evidence, like what happened. She said like what happened, and um, yeah, I thought it was a great moment. Something we've definitely been waiting for. Um,
And we got some fairly answers. We got that her mother had a friend, a male friend. We don't really know anything about this person, but they came to like confront her father about something. And that is what sparked the whole incident. Then it gets a little interesting. Shalon recalls that her mother is coming at her to kill her, and Shalon kills her mother instead. Like full pause. What is going on there? I can only come up with one guess, and it's a little crazy. What if Shalon's mother was an envisager? What if Shalon's mother saw somehow that Shalon has powers? And so she follows that kind of, cultish, crazy mindset that we've seen Teft talk about of my daughter has these powers. I'm going to kill her so that those powers are forced to manifest, which is exactly what happens, perhaps. That it does force Shalon to manifest these powers. It does awaken them in her in self-defense. So what if Shalon's mother was doing all of this on purpose, trying to kill her daughter so that she would make her daughter become a Knights Radiant, kind of the way Teft talked about his people doing it. That's the only guess I can come up with.
And then, so I asked this about Lindavar a while ago. Was there any redeeming arc for Lindavar? And Paul, you said that you hoped so, but then the next episode he dies, and so you're like, well, I guess not. And but at this point, Lindavar takes the blame for killing their mother from Shalon, and then lets his own legacy, well, he kind of kills his own legacy as well, but he kind of destroys his own house to protect Shalon and her powers. That he knows she has a shard blade. He knows that presumably his wife was trying to kill Shalon because of her powers or to provoke her powers, one of the two. And then he's willing to take the blame for that, for her, and protect her from that. Or there's a whole new light to this, with these just the 2 pages here.
there is, I can agree with that. In no way I would say is Lindevar fully justified,
Right.
because moving on from then, he was like he was just horrific. But it was like okay, like he hasn't always been like a lunatic or just this crazy. He did care, but like he kind of put himself down for his daughter there, and so that was a really good moment. Like good bit of information.
I thought about that too. As I was watching the scene, I was kind of asking myself, does this make me reconsider anything about Lindavar? And I think the answer to that is complicated. It's not simple. If Does this justify what Lindavar did to his family? Absolutely not. As we saw, he full on abused his children to the point where he was making their lives a living hell. And nothing can justify doing that to your own family. Does this, though, maybe make me at least feel a little sorry for him? Yeah, definitely. I mean, this moment broke him. Clearly, this moment, like something snapped inside of him in this moment. And that at least maybe explains a little bit of what he did. But unless this is literal insanity, it's not an excuse in my mind.
Right. And it gives us a little bit more context for Shallan's weird in her flashback chapters she describes there's a glowing something behind the portrait in her parents' room, and we can pretty much understand now that she summons Pattern, who is a glowing shard blade, and kills her mother with it, and that scars her for life. And so she, in her mind, she leaves Pattern in that room, and like every time she walks past, she gets like scars from when she summoned Pattern, and that's why she tells Pattern she hates him and all sorts of, and Pattern's in his ones and zeros mind, he's like, I'm sorry, but he doesn't really know how to help her with that.
And there's even a weird little dialogue where I was trying to make sure, I read it twice and I still don't know that I fully understand what's going on, but doesn't Shallan say, I hate you to Pattern?
Yep.
She blames Pattern, at least partially, for what happened. And Pattern responds with something like, oh, I know, and you're going to kill me for it. And then they move on. And like, that whole bit of it is just like, oh man, that adds a whole new level of complexity to their relationship, Pattern and Shallan. So yeah, this is another new level of brokenness for Shallan. Now we know that not only has Shallan brutally killed her father, she also was attacked by her mother and killed herself. So Shallan has killed both her parents. Her family is in ruins. She is, wow. The amount of stuff that Shallan has gone through is just incredible. The amount of mental pain, anguish this poor girl has experienced is crazy.
Yeah.
It definitely is. It adds so much depth to the character, and that's kind of what I was saying at the start there, that like the book, this being Shallan's book, we really got like a full depth to her character and got to see like so much that like if we didn't get like even if some of the stuff was and some wasn't, like the fact that everything was explained like this is just so like impactful to like us seeing Shallan as the character we do. And so definitely really like that.
Yep, I agree.
Pretty remarkable. On the topic of deaths, I don't know if y'all are ready to move along, but right into the next chapter, we have Sadius who dies, which was our big actual death.
Yep.
I guess here, and I was surprised. Out of everyone who was gonna die, I did not think Sadius would be the one. I will be honest with you. That definitely like threw me off. I was very surprised, and I kind of want to hear. I honestly want to hear. Well, I want to hear both of your thoughts.
I remember the first time I read this or listened. I actually listened to it for my first read of this, and I remember being incredibly frustrated with Sadius's death. You have been waiting for this death for a full book now. Like, Sadius betrayed Dalinar. You are so, like, it just makes my blood boil what he does at the end of the Way of Kings. And then he's taunting House Kholin for this full book. You're just waiting. But the way it happens is so unsatisfying that Adolin gives in to this carnal anger and rage that Dalinar has specifically said, no, you're not doing, like, we are not killing Sadeas. That's not who we are. But Adolin says, unlucky for you, I'm not who my father thinks I am, and stabs him through the eye into the brain. Like, that's kind of cool, and, like, in a weird, like, twisted way. Like, yeah, Adolin, but at the same time, you're like, man, a little bit of House Colin's honor just died with Sadeas right there, because Sadeas is manipulating House Colin, and he knows that or thinks he knows that Adolin is not going to kill him in a back alley, because that's not who Adolin is. Surprise, that is who Adolin is, and he's just going to stab him because he's fed up with it, and he will not put up with it any longer, and just stabs him. Elliot, what are your thoughts on this?
You summed it up pretty well. I'm comparing it to like the Kaladin killing of Szeth, which, as I've recently learned, very interestingly, only works in my version of the book. But I look at the way Kaladin fights Szeth and the way he takes him down, and the honor that there is in that of man versus man in the daylight. That whole kind of concept, which aligns very well with what Kaladin has talked about with his men multiple times, and what he talks about with Moash of we have to be the better person. We have to stand up and do the right thing, even when that's hard, even when that means putting ourselves maybe at a disadvantage. And Adolin's giving in to that. He's not standing up and doing the right thing. He's not challenging Sadeas to a duel. He's not facing him man to man. It's pulling a knife on someone when they're least expecting it. And yeah, I think Adolin's going to regret this. I think Adolin's going to regret this big time.
I also think that he will be forced to regret it somehow. I think I had a different initial reaction than y'all did, though. I almost took it as a like. So Adolin has just seen like some of the worst of it at this time. Like the Parshendi are here, um, and they've got Stormform. They're like making an Everstorm, like all this like crazy stuff. In my mind, I'm think almost like I kind of think of this killing as like justified, because I feel like Sadeas is still he's on this like lower tier of problem now, in a sense. Because he was kind of our main problem in the first book with Kaladin and everything going on there, the bridges and stuff. But now there's this whole like the Parshendi are on another level. They're trying to wipe out humanity, right? And Sadeas is still in this kind of like political manipulative game there. Um, and I just was like, I imagine Adolin was like, nope, like this does no longer needs to be a concern. We're moving on, and I'm making this move on, and so he kills them,
Right.
and stuff. So like, in that sense, I'm okay with it. I was definitely surprised with it, but yeah, I guess I wasn't super upset about it. Like the implications, the bad part of it, um, is like the family, like the quote of "I'm not the man that my father thinks I am" kind of thing. I feel like that's the downside here, but
I yeah, I'm less bothered by this than a lot of other things. I make a dramatic comparison to Kaladin, but I maybe I don't quite feel so
mhm.
strongly. Sadeas is clearly a villain, right? So here we have a hero taking down a villain, and in that sense, it is a good thing, perhaps. In that, I guess I'm more just bothered in the way that Adolin did it,
I was
and
gonna say
I'm
that's
less bothered. I'm not bothered by the fact that Adolin killed Sadeas.
Right.
I'm just bothered by the way that the manner in which he did so, and that's what
mhm.
I think will come back to haunt Adolin later down the road.
My only other question with it is so with Sadeas dying, Oathbringer is just on the
Oh
ground
yeah,
right there, right? just left there. Is someone gonna go pick it up? Like, what's gonna happen there? Because it's kind of a loose end, which I imagine will be a major thing in the next book titled
Titled
Oathbringer.
Oathbringer.
I'm just gonna make the guess there. What if someone really devious picks it up or something, or I don't know, just some unexpected character gets it. Some character maybe we haven't even met yet that walks up and sees a shard blade on the ground. My lucky day, right? A shard blade, like
Yeah.
um so yeah, I don't know what's gonna go on there, but I'm very curious to see um how that turns out. And I imagine there's gonna be a lot of drama because Sadius is dead and who killed him, you know?
Yeah.
I don't know if Adelin's gonna ever own up to that or if they're gonna accuse people. There's so much
Mm-hmm.
drama that's gonna happen there, I'm sure. So definitely like making a big opening for story to go crazy in our next book.
And I know we got to move fast because we're going to set new records here for our longest episode
For
ever.
sure.
But
For sure.
on the topic of shard blades, there is another shard blade that I want to talk about for a second, and that is the one that Dalinar had.
Yes.
I had a big pause and like, wait a second moment in the midst of Dalinar doing this whole speaking the oaths, becoming a knight radiant, super cool, bonds the Stormfather to him as his spren. Like,
Yeah.
we should talk about that in a second. But in all that happening, he's bonded to spren. He's now a knight's radiant. He summons his shard blade. And when it comes, he hears the screaming. That caught me off guard because I thought the blade that he had was an honor blade. We know that that blade he has is supposedly the blade that Talonel,
Talonel.
the other herald dude, showed up with, which we know the honor blades were the blades of the heralds. We had kind of jumped to a conclusion that, well, this must be his honor blade. I had been wondering, like, I think, Paul, we might have both been wondering, like, oh, who's going to pick up this blade and start wielding the power of whatever,
A
this
Stone Ward.
is.
I
Yeah,
think that's what he
exactly.
was,
It
right?
is.
Yeah.
Yes.
I think so, yeah. But we know that honor blades are not spren. And therefore, Dalinar should not hear a scream when he holds it, if I'm kind of following all of my logical paths here. So what's going on here? This blade not an honor blade? Is it not what we thought it was? Is Talonel not who we think he is? This one little line all of a sudden is sparking all these questions for me.
I think it's just a slight misunderstanding, in all honesty. I don't know if it's the spren that's like making the screaming or whatever whenever you touch the shard blade. I'm assuming it's in some way correlated to being a Knight's Radiant, and I'm gonna make the jump that Dalinar is. What is he saying? Is it a bondsmith?
Yeah.
Yes. Bondsmith.
And if I remember, the Talonel's honor blade is for a stone ward, and I'm just gonna make the jump that you can't have two. And so that may be why there's some beyond me power that does that. And
the
that
only other
explain with Kaladin a little bit, but
the only other Knights Radiant we've seen hold an honor blade would be Kaladin holding the Windrunner blade. So that would line up what you're saying here.
Yeah, that's an interesting thought.
yeah, I think that would make more sense than like if that's not the case, then I feel like there's just a lot to go into with it. It would get like really complicated with rules there and things
Right.
like that. Which I'm kind of just hoping it's more simple, because like shard blades are super cool, but like they gets really complex,
Right.
And stuff. So
yeah, and that was all I wanted to say. Was definitely some new questions, all because Dalinar hears some spren screaming when he holds that blade. I'm curious.
I do want to talk about the Stormfather for a little bit, because his motivations and his, like, he's kind of an antagonist for some of these chapters. He's holding Syl back. he's trying to protect her from Kaladin, who the Stormfather thinks Kaladin will kill her. He said that multiple times. And he's even lied to Kaladin, saying, "You have already killed her," trying to hold her back and separate their bond. He lies to Kaladin and said, "You killed her," but he didn't. So, and then he summons a high storm and says, "You guys are doomed. I'm just going to summon a high storm so you guys don't have to die by an everstorm. You can die by a high storm instead." And Dalinar like just has a shouting match with him basically for the first half of the battle, the battle in Iraq, and then he bonds him at the top of Urithiru and says the second line of the bondsmiths. So,
and the fact that Dalinar like picks him, we haven't seen that happen as far as we know. It seems like more the opposite, that Spren seemed to pick the people, whereas in this one, Dalinar's just like, "Hey, you're a Spren. I want you to be my, my bondsmith Spren." And the guy, it's like the Stormfather can't refuse almost because he said the oath. So that's interesting in its own right.
True. He's very reluctant. He paraphrasing. He's like, "Please do not do this. Like, I respectfully ask that you do not bond me." and then Dalinar proceeds to say the second ordeal of the bondsmiths, which is another really cool moment. Really exciting, but yeah, like you said, yeah, I was just under the impression this whole time that a Spren has to like choose someone. I who knows now?
Yeah.
Does he tell him that he won't be a Shardblade for him? Doesn't he say that?
He's like, "Fine, I'll be your Spren, but you don't get to summon me as a Shardblade. I won't do that."
I wonder where that is. Like, I just don't get it. I don't know. Maybe over time, maybe they'll become friends, and he'll be like, "Okay, fine."
What do you think the High Storm Shardblade looks like?
That's what I want to know. That's exactly why I'm saying, like, come on, just do it. Like, just be a Shardblade. Like, that'd be super cool.
Dalinar sees a vision that isn't provided by the Stormfather. Did you guys catch this? Dalinar feels this heat while he's in this vision, and then asks the Stormfather later, "What was that vision that you sent me this morning? I've never seen it before." And the Stormfather says, "I didn't send one this morning. There was no high storm. How could I send one?" And then it just kind of leaves it there. So, did you guys think about this at all?
I tried specifically not to think about it too much.
I understand that.
I too kind of chalked that one off to not nearly enough information for me to worry about right now. I got way bigger things to think about. But yeah, I almost just passed it over as just like a dream. It didn't seem to have any specific like importance, but it probably will later.
I'm sure it will. It was very much like we're past the point of like I've got a full plate. It's like I've got 2 full plates, and it's just there's no room for this question right now.
You already have one buffet, and you don't need another food truck in the parking lot.
Exactly. Like we're just not gonna worry about it. We've got plenty to deal with. We'll get to that when we get to that.
So as far as proper chapters go, we end the book with, well, we'll talk about Epilogue here in a second, but we end the book with 4 orders of the Knights Radiant summoned. We have a Windrunner, we have a Lightweaver, we have a Bondsmith, and we have a Truth Watcher, which is just kind of a name drop from Renarin that we get there at the end. We know of 2 more.
We know of an Edge Dancer, Lift, who's not really relevant in the story.
Nobody knows about Lift yet. We know Yasna, who we're about to notice is still alive. She's an Else Caller. So we're missing 4.
Well, we have a few more kind of instances. We have the Herald of the Stone Wards and supposedly the Herald of the Skybreakers.
But we also have Lopin.
our Dustbringer. Yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just go ahead and make that assumption.
So yeah, a few more examples, but yeah, at least 5 proven Knights Radiant of 5 different orders.
Yeah. And they're all on the top of your Theru. And I just a funny comment. I really like the line where Dalinar takes a sphere and inhales the Stormlight on the first try, and Kaladin's off to the side like, that is so frustrating. I tried for weeks to do what you just did, and you just did that instantly. That is frustrating. I really like that line. All right.
So epilogue.
Epilogue. Wit is sitting on a rock playing his instruments for crustaceans as they run past, and Yasna shows up through a portal of some sort right in front of him, and they have an interesting conversation.
This is a question we don't obviously know the answer to. How the heck does Wit know when all this stuff is going to happen? He was doing the same thing at the end of Way of Kings where he's just sitting there waiting for Talonel to show up. Like, what does Wit know that none of the rest of us do?
Well, doesn't Yasna ask him that? Like, how the heck did you
Yeah.
know I was here? Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. I have no intention of figuring that question out probably for a while, but Yasna's back. I knew it.
You did.
I knew it. I knew it. I don't know how. I don't know why. I don't know. It has maybe something to do with her being an Else Caller and a Knights Radiant, but this was cool just to see her come back. I enjoyed it.
Something that's also noteworthy here is she is just as far along, if not further along, than Kaladin is in her ideals. She summons her Shardblade to threaten Wit, and that's Kaladin just learned that. So, and I guess Shallan has had that for a while too, but we didn't really know that. But she has her Shardblade, so.
True. One thing I'm really excited about this, and just our next book going forward, is how many like perspectives we can get with chapters that will like really spice things or like add a lot.
I didn't even think about
like
that.
A Yasna chapters are gonna be super like exciting. Zeth chapters with Nolan are gonna be really exciting. If that happens, fingers crossed. And then our normal characters too, Kaladin, Shallan, and stuff like that. So Dalinar, Renarin, Lopin, like who knows anymore.
So I've kept this under wraps until kind of this point, but do you guys know who the fourth book's who the main character of the fourth book is?
Don't, and I've been wanting to ask for a while, so please.
So you kind of need to finish Words of Radiance for it to not be a spoiler, because Words of Radiance gives you the first Parshendi point of view in interludes, but book 4 is Venli's book. Eshonai's
the Parshendi.
Eshonai's sister.
Venli. Okay.
Whoa.
Interesting. A whole book.
That's like the third Parshendi I would have guessed. That would have
right?
been the perspective of.
Put Eshonai and R'lain in front of Venli. Yep.
Yeah. Interesting.
All right. Eliot, do you want to wrap up our episode and talk about theme of part 5? We will still be doing a Words of Radiance entire book summary episode next week, but just for now, wrapping up part 5 and how the book ended. You can go ahead.
Yep. Just looking at part 5, end of this this book. We had some more meat here to look at as compared to Way of Kings. Way of Kings was just like kind of this little, almost the whole of part 5 was almost just an epilogue,
right,
for Way of Kings. Here we have lots of stuff that happens. The theme I got to for part 5, this was a fairly easy one actually. The word I decided on was revelation. We get a lot of information that gets revealed to us and to the characters in the story throughout part 5. It felt like things just kept coming and coming and coming, like big reveal after big reveal. I'd finish a chapter and think, oh, nothing's going to top that. Oh, wait. And then, this and this and this, on and on and on. It just, lots of information getting revealed, lots of secrets coming out, lots of things that have been very hidden up to this point, and now everyone knows of them. You have the Voidbringers. We've been trying to figure out who they are. We now understand they're the Parshmen awakened by this, Everstorm energy. Both Shallan and Kaladin are now both revealed in their full powers. Everybody knows at least partially who they are and what they're capable of. Kaladin finally understands his purpose as a Windrunner. That was a bit of a revelation, I think, there in Kaladin's storyline. We're even just getting kind of an understanding as a reader of kind of who the big players are. We're learning just how powerful Taravangian is. We're learning just how powerful Raze is. We're learning that we're learning who the big players are in the picture here. We're starting to put together, okay, who are the movers and shakers of Roshar, which we had no idea of back in Way of Kings, right? All we really knew was kind of Alethi. We get to see glimpses of part of these different groups and entities. Now I think we're starting to get an understanding. Maybe that's all going to get shattered when we move into the next, few books and we realize that, oh, actually there's this whole other group of people that are running the show. Who knows? But it feels like we've been through quite a revelation and learning a lot of information. And then, of course, just the fact that, oh no, I can't miss Szeth. Szeth had quite the revelation in the understanding that he finally came to of, I was right. I was right. The Knights Radiant are coming back. That moment for him was pivotal, very pivotal. And then here we are, end of the book. The Knights Radiant are back, baby. They're back. They are full force. We've got them. We've got more on the way. I mean, people like Lopen are becoming Knights Radiant. Like, I'm expecting a flood of Radiance and them to come back and start forming teams with leaders at the top of them. Maybe Kaladin's gonna become the leader of like 20, 30, 100 Windrunners. Like, that feels like the direction we're going to be headed in. So big stuff, lots of information revealed. I'm super, super excited to keep reading. I almost don't want to take a break now to read Warbreaker because I really want to dive into Oathbringer, but
yeah,
whatever's next is going to be fun.
I promise, on the prologue of Warbreaker, you'll understand exactly why we're reading Warbreaker.
Good.
All right. Paul, did you want to have any words?
I didn't have anything major. I was just going to say I feel the same way. I'm super ready for Oathbringer, so... but stopping for Warbreaker, I'm sure will be worthwhile. So, yes, I'm very excited.
All right. With that, we will sign off. Thanks for joining me for Words of Radiance, Paul and Eliot.
Farewell.
What a journey.